Hello, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer at Functional Aesthetics CC. We're helping average guys perform better in their lives inside and outside the gym. In today's video, I'm going to be demonstrating just some of the workouts that I've been doing recently, primarily where I'm combining a heavy compound movement such as a deadlift with an isolation type of exercise such as a biceps curl. So oftentimes you can actually increase your strength in isolation exercises or bring up weak muscle groups when you pair them with heavy compound lifting movements. And the reason for this is that there's a little bit of a crossover benefit of that hormonal environment that is stimulated by doing heavy lifting. So you're increasing that growth hormone, testosterone, and just getting the body into that ideal hormonal state when you're lifting those heavier weights and stuff. So if you have a muscle group that's lagging behind, sometimes if you go and do the heavy lifting and then finish it off with maybe some of those weaker movements, or maybe you're trying to grow your arms or something, get your arms a little bit bigger, by combining those two together, you get that crossover beneficial benefit of doing so. And now the title of this video was maybe slightly misleading, as it's not primarily geared towards growing your arms bigger, because as you may have noticed within this video, as you're watching the video later on and stuff, if I'm doing my biceps curls, I'm doing them for low reps with a heavier weight. Now typically when you're trying to grow your arms bigger, you want a little bit more volume, although more variety is beneficial as well. So typically, anywhere in that 6 to 12 repetition range is going to be beneficial for growing the arms a little bit bigger. However, just like with any other muscle group, sometimes going a little bit lower, sometimes going a little higher can be beneficial too, because at the end of the day, you do need to get stronger if you want the muscle to continue to grow bigger as well, right? So there is ideal protocols for building hypertrophy, which generally has to do with more volume and frequency, but at some point you do need to be also getting stronger. So if you get to a sticking point, right, for example, you're doing the typical rep ranges, as I've talked about in some other videos, anything that fatigues the muscle in 90 seconds or less has the capability of growing a stronger muscle. So you can do 20 rep sets or whatever and still build muscle with that. The problem is that oftentimes people get very bored doing that amount of repetitions and that amount of high volume before you get to fatigue. The other end of the spectrum is if you're doing super heavy stuff, you'd have to do like 10, 12 sets, and just the accumulated wear and tear on the joints and just all that stress could be detrimental as well to being able to stick with the program. So usually that sweet spot is between the 6 to 8 to 12 repetitions of an exercise for ideal hypertrophy stimulus, right? But if you're doing that and you're not able to continually increase the weight over time, right? So maybe you're doing it for a while and you're steadily going up in weight and you're increasing the weight, and then all of a sudden you kind of get stuck. Sometimes it's good to, take a back off a little bit for a week or so, or even just go and try to drop the reps down and try to stimulate growth by getting the mechanical overload factor of muscle growth by just hitting some really heavy sets for a week or two, or maybe even just 1 week, a couple of workouts, and then going back to your regular routine, maybe even dropping the load down a little bit lighter than that, increasing the reps for a while too, and just varying around playing with the sets. And so that's why I decided to do that in this video. Now also, if you're pairing a pulling exercise with biceps, or a pushing exercise with triceps, so thinking about that, if you oftentimes your pulling exercises, your back exercises, your posterior chain exercises go great with those isolation exercises that work similar muscles, right? Because if you're doing a row or even a deadlift, you're going to be activating your biceps to a certain degree in the process of doing that. If you're doing lat pull downs, pull-ups and stuff, you're definitely going to be getting the biceps involved in there. So at the end of the workout, if you've been training for a while and you're not getting as much growth and increases in strength from just doing the basic compound movement lifts, your deadlifts, squats, bench presses, and overhead presses and things like that, and you still have a little bit more energy at the end of the workout, then you can add in that extra volume. Now, on the energy end of the equation, if your goal is to increase muscle mass and size, right, you also need to make sure that you're eating enough, because increasing the volume without also increasing the amount of food that you're eating is likely to possibly even lead to decreases in muscle growth because you'd be potentially going into that calorie deficit, right? If you're increasing your calorie expenditure because you're doing more reps, more sets, maybe even increasing the load a little bit, and you're not also increasing your food intake, then it's going to be basically a wash, right? Or maybe even negative. And this is a problem that a lot of young guys in high school, and myself included back in the day, would have this problem with. Have no problems getting stronger in the gym. You'd be getting stronger and stuff like that, but as far as increasing the muscle size, getting bigger, you had a lot of difficulty with that because you simply were not eating enough to offset the amount of energy you're expending in the gym. Now fast forward years later, you get a lot of guys in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, and they have the opposite problem. They're wanting to lose a little bit of belly fat and stuff, and typically it's not because your metabolism slows down with age. The research doesn't actually show that, but your metabolism can definitely slow down if you're not continuing to stay active. You're focusing on other activities in your life, and this is typically what happens with guys. They're not as active as they were in their teenage years, their 20s, and even their 30s, because now they have other responsibilities, other things going on. And research also shows that from the age of 20 onward, if you're not actually actively doing something to offset or to actually strengthen your muscles, to try to build them up, you're going to be losing muscles as early as 20 years old onward at a steady rate every decade beyond that. So by the time you get to 40 years old, your metabolic rate, I did a calculation once and it was pretty crazy that your metabolic rate by the time you reach 40 and I don't recall the exact rate of decrease in muscle growth, and it might vary from person to person, but in the article, the research article I was reading, at the rate of muscle decrease by the time you got to 40, between 20 and 40 years old, you could in effect be consuming 500 extra calories per day, or not burning off that 500 extra calories per day, simply just because you're not strength training due to the losses of muscle mass over that period of time. So definitely important factor to keep in mind there as well. So the main point was that there's a variety, while there is a kind of a sweet spot and an ideal and most economical and efficient way to build muscle in terms of the load you're using and the rep ranges you're using, from time to time it is good to step outside of that. Now the last thing I want to say before actually hopping into the video here is I also have some exercises that are full body movements. And the full body movements I like to incorporate in there just for the fact that they help you to maintain your athleticism. What's the point of being really strong, being able to lift a truck or whatever, or having massive muscles and stuff, if you can't go and still do those athletic movements that you used to do when you were playing sports? Because at the end of the day, if you're building muscle to a certain point, building muscle and strength to a certain point is going to enhance your athletic abilities, but at some point it no longer is enhancing it, and you're just essentially making your whole sport be about increasing muscle size and increasing strength. And here at Functional Aesthetics, we like to think about in terms of not only making you look better, but also making you perform better in not only sports, but in life in general. So guys, sit back, watch the video. I also have some narrations on certain clips kind of describing why I'm doing the exercise in a certain way and stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. And I will see you on the flip side of this video. One thing you might be able to notice when I'm doing my deadlift, and one tip that I like to point out here, I feel helps me to be able to get a better muscle engagement in this and obviously be able to lift more weight, is at the initiation of the lift, I like to raise the hips up slightly while also elevating my shoulder blades. And then while I'm doing this, I'm also taking in a deep breath, and then while holding my breath in, I will then drop my hips at the same time as I then depress my shoulder blades and think about screwing my arms externally or externally rotating in the shoulders. And then I'm going to pull the slack out of the bar and begin the lift. Once I get to the top of the lift, I can exhale, let the air out, and then immediately take another deep breath in before again holding it and initiating the lowering portion of the movement. I just find that this helps me to generate more leverage, keep my back tight, and prevent rounding in the upper back, which is harder to keep your back tight if you begin loose at the beginning of the lift. So hopefully that helps. Just one thing I wanted to point out while demonstrating this lift. right, so when it comes to triceps training, obviously I do a lot of the common triceps exercises. Close grip bench presses, overhead tricep extensions are some of my favorite. I also will use the cable machine from time to time as well to work, different angles with the triceps and for different purposes. So, close grip tricep bench press is going to be optimal for increasing overall muscle mass and just your general strength in doing the movement. And then, your overhead tricep extension is going to hit more of the long head of the triceps. And then, your rope press downs and various other dumbbell kickbacks are good to, kind of just bring out that detail after you've built the initial mass on the triceps. Now, one thing that I am a fan of doing is, doing functional type movement, functional exercises, and the ability to handle your own body weight. So once you've built up a decent amount of strength using different exercises, I like to then do some kinds of calisthenics or gymnastic exercises to then integrate the rest of the body in there with the triceps as well. And so doing negative muscle ups is a great way to not only develop great tricep strength and potentially help you to get up over the top of the bar with the muscle up, but also it's going to help you to eccentrically load your lats, your biceps, and at the top of the movement, you're even going to get a little bit of shoulder activation as well. And so sometimes I like to switch things up a little bit and, develop in keeping with that theme of maintaining athletic performance as well as just overall muscle and strength. I like to incorporate this sometimes from time to time, supersetted with my biceps curls to just basically hit the triceps, hit the biceps, alternating back and forth in that fashion. Alright guys, that's all I got for today. Hopefully you guys gained some insight into how to improve your own workouts, maybe some things that you haven't thought of before, maybe some stuff that you like to apply when you are going to the gym yourself and doing that. And that's kind of the point of this video, is to give you ideas on how to improve not only your life in the gym, but also in life in general, right? Because fitness is far more than just looking good on a beach. It can positively impact every single aspect of your life if done appropriately. Obviously you can have it as an end in itself, and it can become all-consuming. Back in the day when I was sorting out some digestive issues and I first got into bodybuilding, my whole life was consumed around the preparation of food, eating food, things like that. Since then, I've moved to more fasting protocol, greatly stripped down and simplified the way that I eat, and it actually enhances my life to eat in this way, and also the way that I train enhances other aspects of my life, and that's why I continue to do it, not only because I like the way that I look when I exercise, but also the way that I feel, and more importantly, the way that I perform in every aspect of my life. If you like this sort of content related to strength training, workout design, how to build muscle, lose fat, how to prevent injuries from occurring, and also how to work around those injuries, then consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the button in the lower right hand corner of the screen. And also, if you got any value out of this video, hit that like button, and we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness related information. Thanks guys for watching.